Hello and welcome to my first or fourth Wheel of Time video, depending on how you look at it. First for this channel, fourth overall. And for any of you loyal fans out there might be some, who are wondering what this video is doing here, I will go into more detail about this new channel and what kind of content you can expect to see at the end of the video. Because I know why you're all here. I know why you clicked on this video, and that is because you want to know just how much did Robert Jordan steal from the Vikings. Well, I'm going to tell you. A couple months back I finished reading this, Neil Gaiman's Norse Mythology. Great read for any of you legend lovers out there. But once I'd finished it, I couldn't help but notice some small to major similarities between this and the Wheel of Time. I'm not calling Robert Jordan a copycat. No, that is what I'm saying. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. A lot of fantasy has elements of the real world woven into it. In Game of Thrones, for example, the infamous Red Wedding was inspired by Scottish historical legend, the Black Dinner, where the young leader of the powerful Douglas clan, William Douglas, and his even younger brother were invited to dinner by the then King James II of Scotland. Halfway through the festivities, they were presented with a black bull's head, an omen of death, and were subsequently seized and murdered. Dinner parties back in the medieval times were a real 50-50 whether you came out alive or not. Even in Lord of the Rings lore, the fall of the island nation of Numenor parallels Plato's Atlantis legend. Whilst doing my research for this video, I came across a quote by Andrew D. Thrasher, great name by the way, who I think summed it up best when he said, "Fantasy allows us to embrace our imagination, to create something original and new, but our imagination originates in reality." I've always thought of our imaginations as a collection of everything we've ever seen, read, or watched. A great author is able to take all those ingredients and mix them together like a cocktail to create something new and delicious, like a raspberry rum daiquiri. I thought it'd be fun to go through some of the Norse myths that Robert Jordan in some cases quite clearly took inspiration from. Not gonna lie, some of these range from subtle nods to pretty on the nose. The first and arguably most obvious reference to Norse mythology is the similarities between Matt and Odin. Odin, the leader of the Norse pantheon, the god with many names such as Grimnir, One Eye, Hooded One, Ian McShane, just to name a few. Odin would often roam the human realm, Midgard, depicted with a broad-brimmed hat and a spear, and this depiction also fits a certain dice-loving Tarviran we all know and love. Odin's weapon of choice was his rune-covered spear, very similar to Matt's own adorned Ashendari. And the similarities don't stop at aesthetics. One consistent character trait of Odin's throughout Norse mythology is his desire to increase his wisdom and knowledge. He goes about this many different ways, but it's important to remember in the cold, harsh Scandinavian world the Vikings lived in, you don't get something for nothing. In order to gain the knowledge of the dead, Odin hung himself from the world tree Yggdrasil for 9 days and nights, which, when you compare hanging from a tree for 216 hours or the entirety of secondary school, it's a tough call. Wheel of Time fans who might not be aware of this legend might be getting a little bit of deja vu at this point to when Matt was left to die by the Eowyn, hanging from Avendasora, the Tree of Life, and after being rescued by Rand, woke up with the knowledge of history's dead generals. The main difference in these stories beside the time frame is that Odin was also stabbed by his spear as well as being hung, whereas Matt came out of the whole process with a new weapon. So I guess Matt kind of got the better deal. Another of Odin's attempt to gain more knowledge is told in the legend of Mimisbruna, the Well of Wisdom. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I did try and look up a pronunciation guide, but there wasn't a lot out there. In order to drink from the well, Odin must make a sacrifice, and for some reason, Odin decides to take out his own eye and throw it into the well. Someone really needs to explain to this guy what a textbook is. Similarly, Matt sacrifices one of his eyes in order to save Moraine from the Tower of Genji. If these two examples weren't enough to convince you that Robert Jordan was a massive Odin fanboy, then this next one surely will. Engraved on Matt's Ashendari are 2 ravens and a poem with the lines, "Thought is the arrow of time, memory never fades." And would you believe it, Odin also had 2 ravens named Hugin and Munin, whose names just so happen to translate to thought and memory. Now, if you thought Matt was the only major character with a Norse parallel, then you are mistaken, as there is quite a lot of evidence to suggest that Perrin is also related to the god of thunder and my favourite Avenger, Thor. Thor is often portrayed in Norse mythology as all muscle and no brain.
Oh, this is knowledge. Knowledge is power. No, it's not. Knowledge is not power. That's power.
He most certainly is in Neil Gaiman's retelling. In The Eye of the World, we learn that these are characteristics often wrongly associated with Perrin as well because of his careful thinking and beautiful blacksmith arms. In addition to this, we also have what is, in my opinion, the most obvious nod towards Norse mythology in The Wheel of Time, and that's Perrin's power-wrought hammer, Mjolnir, which if you say really quickly, almost sounds like
Mjolnir.
Mjolnir. Mjolnir.
Mjolnir? What's Mjolnir?
Mjolnir?
Jonathan?
Perrin, however, proves to be a better blacksmith than the dwarves who made Mjolnir, as it has a regular-sized handle, instead of Mjolnir's shorter handle, because the dwarves who were making it got distracted by Loki, disguised as a fly, and stinging the dwarf who was in control of the bellows in the eye. Better story, shorter handle. That is where the similarities between Perrin and Thor end. However, interestingly, Thor does have a Slavic parallel that bears a bigger resemblance to our favourite wolf brother. And get this, his name is Perun. P-E-R-U-N, Perrin. The Slavic god of thunder and storms, Perrin's weapons of choice were a hammer, axe, and arrow, mirroring Perrin's symbolic choice between the hammer and the axe, and also throwing in a good old Two Rivers longbow for good measure. Perrin also had a divine opponent called Veels, who is said to be able to transform himself into a wolf, perhaps a seed of inspiration for Perrin's ability to talk to wolves in the series. Neil Gaiman points out that what sets Norse mythology above other pantheons for him is Ragnarok, the final battle between the gods and the frost giants, the end of this world and the start of another. Gaiman states that it made the Norse world seem strangely present and current, while better documented systems of belief felt as though they were part of the past. Ragnarok hangs over Norse mythology like an axe. It's not a question of if, but a question of when, and in that way I think you could compare it to Tarmangaiden. Tarmangaiden is also referred to as the last battle, and is prophesied in the Creathon cycle as the apocalyptic confrontation between the Dark One and the Dragon Reborn. Like Ragnarok, Tarmangaiden is accepted by the characters in the Wheel of Time as part of their future. That the dragon will be reborn and battle the Dark One is never really in doubt. It's just hoped by the majority of people that it won't happen in their lifetime. There are also other similarities between Ragnarok and Tarmangaiden. Both have similar warning signs, like weather disturbances. Ragnarok is to be preceded by a never-ending winter. In the Wheel of Time, the Dark One's touch on the world causes an unnaturally long summer, which is fixed by Nynaeve, Avienda, and Elaine with the Bowl of Winds, which in turn results in a very bad winter. Before Ragnarok, Loki and his son, the Great Wolf Fenrir, are to break their chains, similarly to how the Dark One and the Forsaken escape their imprisonment when the seals begin to fail. Ragnarok is announced by Heimdall blowing the horn Gjallarhorn, which summons all the dead warriors from the past to come and join the gods in the fight against the frost giants. This is paralleled in the Wheel of Time by the Horn of Alir, which is blown during the last battle to summon all the legendary historical warriors to come and fight at Tarmangaiden. So there we have it. Those are just some of the Norse myths that inspired events and characters in the Wheel of Time. Some admittedly more subtle than others, but as we all know, as the Wheel of Time turns, ages come and pass, memories become legend, legend fades to myth, and so who's to say when we're talking about Odin, a one-eyed general who hung from a tree to gain the knowledge he needed to lead both the forces of living and dead in the final battle, that we're not talking about a dice-loving prankster farm boy from Emmonsfield. There is also an argument that Rand is based on the Norse god Tyr, because they both lose a hand. But I'm keeping that topic for the next video, which is all about hand loss in mythology and pop culture and what it symbolises for a character, so stay tuned for that. And that is a good segue to talking about this new channel. So if this is the first time you're seeing this face talking about the Wheel of Time, hello. If it's not, then you might be aware of my other Wheel of Time videos over on Thread's YouTube channel. I'm not saying that there won't be any more Wheel of Time content going up over there, but predominantly Wheel of Time, fantasy, mythology related videos will be going up on this brand new shiny channel. So if you like this video, please do subscribe to this channel, like the video, share it with all your fantasy fanatic friends. I love chatting with people in this community. It's one of my favorite things to do. So please do comment below, letting me know what kind of videos you want to see on this channel, because it's kind of your call. Let's build this channel together. Tell me what you want and I'll make it. Within reason, within reason. I've seen how thirsty some of you turn up to the Dusty Wheel Tavern. So let's try to keep it to one ASMR reading a month. Thank you guys, and I will see you all next time.